And now, TSPN News with Tom Slivick. Comprehensive news because in today's world, you need more than just sound bites. TSPN, streaming on the World Wide Web, and now on demand at tspntv.com. Hi everyone, and welcome to TSPN's News in Depth today. And once again, we're going to be talking about water, and specifically the Wild and Scenic Designation that could possibly be on the Mokelumne River. And I'm going to start today's show off talking to who I think might very well be the first victim of the Wild and Scenic Designation. That's Dennis Rodman. How are you, Dennis?
I'm fine, Tom.
We're going to be
Yes.
we're going to be talking to you about what's been going on. Of course, your family's been on the Mokelumne River for a good long time. We're going to find out specifically all the specifics and hear your side of the story. But first, we're going to start off with a break. That's the way it is on TV. So we'll be right back after this break. So stay with us. You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN. Hi everyone, and welcome back. And with me is Dennis Rodman, owner, along with his family, of Roaring Camp. And you used to have Pine Acres as well, right?
Yeah, we started Pine Acres in 1956.
Okay, but Roaring Camp's been in the family for how long?
Well, prior to that time, my dad started buying some property around there, and when he acquired enough of it, and we used to go in and out of Roaring Camp on horseback.
Okay, your dad, Elton Rodman?
Elton, yes.
Okay, I think Elton Rodman, everyone in Amador County knew who Elton was, I believe.
And in the 60s, we started to work on building the road down into Roaring Camp. And the road's about 3.5 miles, and it's all on our private property.
Okay, in the interest of fairness or whatever, just put everything out. You know, you're running a commercial right now on in TSPN to get tourists to go to Roaring Camp, which I think is a wise thing to do there, but I want everybody to know that as well. But that's not why you're here. But we're going to show some of the slides because it gives people a little bit of knowing what goes on at Roaring Camp. So why don't you tell us a little bit? Maybe you can see over my shoulder. What,
Okay.
You don't have to describe the slides, but just go ahead and tell us.
Well, Roaring Camp was an old mining area back probably. We've seen some stones down there that have had like 1871 carved on them and stuff. So it was like right after the initial gold rush is when they first started going down into there, because there's a big body of ancient river gravel that they mined. They actually wing dammed the river there in one section, and so that they could work the gold out of it.
Okay, and if we haven't gone through all those, Alan, just take them through there and then come on out, and we're just going to just use the camera work. That was just to kind of give people a flavor for what it is, because they're just slides. It's intended to go. It goes by in 20 seconds. We don't want it to be on here for 5 minutes or so. But anyway, so Roaring Camp is it's been in the family for a long time. Was it ever a mine?
Yeah.
In the old days? I don't
Yes,
really know
they had an old steam donkey down there, which helped to witch some of the ore cars back out of some of the tunnels that they put in there, and then they worked the river itself. It was all placer gold that they were after. There was no hard rock. It was all in gravels, either active river gravels or the ancient river gravels.
Okay, so you've been on the Mokelumne River and your family for years and years, and you already contribute, I believe, a lot of tourism, help with tourism and the money that people spend as tourists while they're in the county. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we have like 20 cabins down there and numerous campsites, and so that there can be 100 or more people staying in the camp for the whole week, and then plus we bring like 25 up to 25 a day in for day trips, and then of course our Saturday night cookouts. I'll usually feed like 150 or so people down there for the cookout. So there's a lot of people
like
coming
on the week,
and
on Saturdays, people also might not be camping, but they can go down and
they can
enjoy
go down
the
just for the
evening
evening.
and
Correct.
the cowboy type entertainment and things like that. Right?
And on top of that, this time of the year, while school is still in operation around here, we have the elementary school kids that are, when they're studying their California history and about the gold mining stuff, we get them from not only this county, but in fact this week we have 3 elementary school groups of school kids from the school from San Francisco and Marin County. So
Who talks to them? Like, you have docents down there or people
yeah,
like that?
oh yeah. We have a mine set up there with a trommel, and we have sluice boxes and different methods. And of course there's gold panning troughs, and not so much like you see in the real touristy areas. I mean, this is actually, we dig the dirt out of the bank, and then the kids get to go walk down by the river and
They still
pan the
finding
gold
color?
out. Yeah, we're fortunate enough that there is still a lot of, a lot of it's really fine gold, but there's a lot of gold there, that people can find. Yep.
Okay, so you're a great place to visit. Kind of a, can't call it living history. Of course, I don't know. Do the docents dress up like days of old?
We have some old people working for us. They don't have to dress any
Okay,
different.
and another really unique thing, I have talked to some of the people that have worked down there before, and as out and about and things like that, and some of them, they don't come out of there. They come out maybe once or twice, I don't know, a summer. Seemed to me like when I was asking some person, that Jackson, or I think Pine Grove, that's too big for me. I can't handle that.
Yeah, well, we have even customers that come and spend a month or more.
Okay.
It's a week at a time, but they come down for a month or more and have for years and years.
And it's a very remote area, and since you're in that canyon, you probably don't get much cell service
No,
for phones.
no, you're pretty much out
You
of
were
luck
telling
in
me
that
if you
area.
camp there for a week, basically they caravan in and stay there?
They stay there from Sunday to Sunday, and they stay right down there on the bottom. And on Sunday morning at 6 o'clock, the bell goes off and everybody comes and has coffee, and then they caravan out.
Do you guys have things as well as like kayaks and things down there for people to be on the river?
Yeah, they're welcome to bring whatever they'd like to, but we do have, some floating devices. But the main thing that we do down there is that, we allow people to pan for gold and do all that stuff and hunt for gold, but we supply access, provide access to the river for them into a spot that's very inaccessible.
Okay, now is that river wild in the way? It's certainly scenic, and right now it's also good for recreation.
Mm-hmm.
In your sense, from being there, is it a wild river?
Well, it all depends whose definition of wild you'd use. Like the river is controlled by PG&E. They divert water constantly all the way from Salt Springs all the way down to Electra, and they divert water there. And so the water that comes down to the main part that goes down through Roaring Camp is totally controlled. It's not wild in the sense of it, controls itself. It's more like a spigot, like on your sink. You turn it on and it flows.
So I guess what you're saying is kind of when it does get rapids and a lot of flow, that's because PG&E has just released water.
Yeah, or it's wintertime and there's a lot of rain,
or-
and in that sense. But all summer long the level is controlled.
Okay, we're going to run the segment just a little bit longer to stay with you before we go to our break. And then, where I was is, it sounds like if anybody would have a carve-out, I understand PG&E has a carve-out, meaning, I guess just about everybody probably now knows the language that we hear from Washington and things like that from our politicians, meaning they kind of jump over you and Roaring Camp, you were okay, you were going to be fine with the Wild and Scenic from the state. Is that correct? And to your knowledge?
No.
No, you don't have, or you weren't
Well,
going to possibly have one.
We were initially, even in the Wild and Scenic on the state level,
Okay.
we were excluded. In other words, we were jumped over just like PG&E's, all their powerhouses,
Okay.
and they were excluded.
Okay.
It then, by the time it got around to coming,
So just to clarify, so before the meeting that happened Tuesday, I believe 2 weeks ago, probably today, is there was you did have a carve out. In my sense of the words, that you were going to be jumped over, and Roaring Camp was going to be okay as it was.
That's
in
correct.
the river.
That's correct.
And then what happened?
Unchanged, yeah.
And then what happened right at the meeting or before the meeting? Was after when the amendment?
There
the
was an amendment added to
process?
the bill, and I just got a little email about that there was an amendment added to the bill that affected Roaring Camp, and I didn't know what it said, but I know we were going to be included in the river system, the Wild and Scenic system, but we were included in the Wild designation, which is the one that's the most restrictive.
Okay.
I can actually read that if you'd like to know
Sure.
what a wild
Go right
river
ahead,
is.
Dennis.
It says, wild rivers, which are those rivers or segments of rivers that are free of impoundments and generally inaccessible except by trail, with watersheds and shorelines essentially primitive. So like anybody that's ever been down to Roaring Camp knows that that's not the description of Roaring Camp. I mean, we have cabins and people and picnic tables and barbecues and right on the shorelines.
Do you feel that your family business is going to be hindered in any way? Are you concerned?
Well, the problem with the wild designation or any inclusion into the wild system is that, especially with the wild river system, is that the day that the bill would be passed, we are in non-compliance with the law and the intent of the act.
Okay.
So people say, they keep telling me, oh, don't worry.
So you would but you would have, not waiting for the other shoe to drop. You actually have like the sword of Damocles waiting over your head, waiting for someone to pull the trigger and say, or the possibility of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And they keep telling me, I mean, there are things built into the law, laws of like eminent domain, I mean, they don't call it that. There's another little part I could read to
But
you.
you don't feel safe enough now, or whatever, with having it carved out in the bill as it stands now.
That's correct.
Okay, so the devil's in the details, and you would probably want to have, as someone once said, if it's not written, it's probably not worth the paper it's not written on.
Yeah, or if it's written in here, if they have the ways to get rid of you and the wording to get rid of you, and they just tell you, oh, don't worry, we never use those against you.
Okay.
We never have. Doesn't mean they won't.
But that's what they tell you,
That's correct.
but not put in writing.
Nothing in writing. That's
Okay,
right.
Dennis, I think it's time for us to move on to our next segment. Thank you very much for coming by, and maybe we'll have you again and find out more of what's
Yeah,
going
you're
on with
welcome,
you and
Tom.
your
Yeah,
family.
I'd be glad to share. with
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. And stay with us when I come back. I'm going to have Rich Farrington. He's director of the Amador Water Agency, and we're going to be continuing our discussion about the Wild and Scenic Designation for the Mokelumne River. Stay with us right here on TSPN.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.